Hi, this is Cheryl Gallant, your Conservative Member of Parliament for the self-sufficient riding of Renfrew-Nipissing-Pembroke. With the return of Parliament, it's been a busy week in Ottawa. The NDP Liberal government is becoming desperate. NDP Liberal policies such as the carbon tax, fuel regulations, and wasteful spending have turbocharged inflation in Canada. The NDP Liberals try to blame everybody but themselves. They keep claiming inflation is a global phenomenon. They claim global inflation is caused by food and energy prices. They claim the sanctions on Russian oil and the blockade of wheat from Ukraine exports are the reason food and energy prices are so much higher in Canada. The problem for NDP Liberal governments is that Canada exports oil and wheat, so the value of the Canadian dollar should be much higher than it is now. If the dollar had gone up, then the cost of imports would have gone down. This might mean bread becomes even more expensive, but imports like fruits and vegetables should have become cheaper. Yet the dollar has barely moved. The price of everything, whether it's a loaf of bread, a barrel of oil, or a pile of Canadian dollars, is determined by supply and demand. Well, for the last 8 years, every Trudeau policy has either increased the supply of dollars or reduced the demand for dollars. Massive borrowing is like printing money, thereby increasing the supply of money. When there's more money in circulations, prices go up. Higher taxes, and new rules are forcing businesses out of Canada. When Canadian investors flee, it's called capital flight. It reduces the demand for Canadian dollars. The NDP Liberals' anti-business ideology is pushing foreign investors to skip Canada. That reduces demand for the loonie. Trudeau's policies are hurting the value of our dollar, and that adds to inflation. In June, the freeloading finance minister was declaring mission accomplished in the war on inflation. Yet, numbers released this week show inflation is up again. As the NDP Liberal government becomes more desperate, they become more dangerous. They will attempt to push more costly, restrictive rules through to tie the hands of future governments. Because of the alliance between Justin and Jagmeet, the NDP Liberal coalition has survived every confidence vote so far, and there have been many. Yet with every extra dollar they spend, they go down in the polls. Conservatives will stay focused on reaching out to Canadians with our common sense plans. This week, we saw a clear example of the change we will bring when we replace this costly, corrupt coalition. Pierre's put forward a common sense bill on housing. Conservatives believe incentives matter. And one thing the Liberals forget is that you need a carrot and a stick. With the Liberals, it's either carrots for everyone or they whip out the stick and ban it. All or nothing, their way or the highway. Pierre's plan is better. Each year, big cities will have to increase housing by 15%. If they don't meet that target, they lose federal funding. If they exceed the target, they get additional funding. That's just common sense. For too long, the Liberals and their legacy media allies have been focused on spending and not results. The Liberals announced plans to spend billions on infrastructure, and the legacy media reported as the infrastructure's already been built. Without the water lines, sewage lines, and roads, new housing cannot be built. How many times have the Liberals announced better rural internet and never delivered? In addition to setting clear goals, our plan will sell suitable federal land and 15% of federal buildings for housing development. The NDP Liberal government has a plan to remove 30% of developed land. Look it up. It's called 30 by 30. Or go to my YouTube and watch the episode entitled Trudeau and the Communists' Canada Land Grab. The NDP Liberal government is bringing in laws to make homes that don't meet their green standards unsaleable. But best of all, a Conservative government will fire the senior bureaucrats who don't get the job done. For too long, these high-level bureaucrats got bonuses regardless of their performances. Under Pierre's bill, if these executives don't hit their targets of approving projects within 60 days, they'll see their paychecks cut in half until they do. If they don't meet the target within a year, they'll be fired. Setting clear targets and tying executives' paychecks to their performance are just common sense ideas that are long overdue in Ottawa. After 8 years of the NDP Liberal government, they've still failed to get houses built. Conservatives will bring homes to Canadians that they can afford. Live from Ottawa, this is Cheryl Gallant.